بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. So we were discussing the chapter of Bab al-Anjati wa Tatiriha, the chapter of impurities and cleansing it. Just to give a synopsis of the last discussion, we said that if something has become najis, something has been soiled with najasat, and inshallah, as we progress through the sabak, we'll discuss what all the different types of najasat are and the hukam. For the moment, just understand this much: something has become najis, then we say that you can use water or any other clear fluid substance that is able to remove the traces of the jasad, right? And then we discussed the ikhtilaf between Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Yusuf was one end, Imam Muhammad, Imam Zufar, Imam Shafi was on the other end. So we said the main thing, the bottom line is you must remove all the najasat from that. And then we also discussed this year that uh, if you it doesn't matter whether your body was soiled or whether your um, your clothes were soiled, the same usul are applicable, the same usul apply, and that is that if you have any pure liquid substance that is able to wash away and remove the traces of najasat completely, that will be good enough, right? So that sometimes people ask this question also with regards to dry cleaning and that type of thing. So if you understood this principle here, that if I'm not sure how the dry cleaning work, but if you're using some a pure liquid in the dry cleaning that washes away and removes the najasat completely, then also be pure. You have any idea? Oh, you used to work in the dry cleaner the last holiday. How did they do the dry cleaning? You don't know, not sure. You just collect the money. You never check how it works. But anyway, if anybody knows how the dry cleaning works, but if you are able to wash the dry clean, if it is what like I told you before, if you understand the usul, inshallah, you can apply it. And that is when we speak about the faqih, we speak about the mufti. A mufti is not someone just look in the text and take what the text is. Mufti is a person who can look at the text, understand the usul behind it, extrapolate and apply to other instances, apply to other scenarios as well. So we're telling you, if the dry cleaning process, you're using some type of clean liquid, some type of clean chemical is able to wash away and remove the najasat, then that will also suffice for your clothing, for your body. So okay, we're going to start from here. وَإِذَا أَصَابَ الْخُفِّ نَجَاسَةٌ. Brother Qamruddin, you're going to read today, inshallah. وَإِذَا أَصَابَ الْخُفَّ نَجَاسَةٌ لَهَا جِرْمٌ كَالرَّوْثِ وَالْأَزْرَةِ. You want to read and translate from there, inshallah? Brother Qamruddin, you're going to read.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Oh,
I haven't been able to follow the page, unfortunately.
oh, okay, no problem. You follow today, inshallah. And then tomorrow you first see where we stop. Then tomorrow you will read from the inshallah, right? No problem.
Yeah, inshallah.
Look, you read, inshallah. Bismillah. You got asabatil. Yeah, that makes more sense because I got is asab al khufa, but asabat it makes more sense because it is muannas. Yeah, carry on. You got azirati or azrati. Azirati. Okay, carry on. Okay. Remember, I told you, I mentioned to you before, and I'll mention again to you that sometimes the masla don't seem so relevant. But if you are smart and you understand the usul behind, which I will try my best to explain to you, you can apply it to modern day contemporary scenarios. Let's see. If anybody during the course of our lesson, inshallah, while we're discussing the lesson, I'll try my best, inshallah, to extrapolate the usul and apply it to a current modern day scenario. If any one of you people, the online people, if you can think about something similar, please do share it with us. So here goes. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَإِذَا أَصَابَ الْخُفَّ نَجَاسَةٌ لَهَا جِرْمٌ كَالرَّوْثِ وَالْعَذْرَةِ وَالدَّمِ وَالْمَنِيِّ فَجَفَّتْ فَدَلَكَهُ بِالْأَرْضِ جَازَ. Okay, before I read and translate, they're saying if you have a khuf, now a khuf, a leather sock, it is not so soft and it is not so porous. It is more durable. It is more tough. So there's three things you must remember here. There's three things. The first thing, you got a material which is tough. It is not so durable. It's not a completely solid. It is like a durable, a malleable thing, but it's tougher than your normal cloth. That's the first thing. The second thing, it is soiled with najasat that is not liquid. It is, it has mass, it has body, like stool of a human being or stool of an animal or anything like that. And the third thing is once it dries, then it is not necessary to wash it. You can give it a thorough scraping, like on the earth or on any surface. You scrape it thoroughly to such an extent that no traces of the najasat remain, then it will be parked. So just a simple example to understand this, you had a khuf, or maybe you had a shoe. A shoe is also made of leather, right? So you were riding a horse or whatever. So some of that, what you call it now, what's the right word of the horse? The dung, yeah, the dung at the, came onto the shoe, and that thing became dry. So you have to remember all three conditions. You have to remember all three conditions. The najasat must have body, it must have mass, it must be dry, and it must be scratched. So when you scratch it thoroughly to such an extent, there's no trace of it, it will be parked. Follow now. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَإِذَا أَصَابَتِ الْخُفَّ نَجَاسَةٌ. When najasat afflicts a khuf, something leather, laha jirmun, it has mass. When we say it has mass here, it's not exactly liquid. It's not something that flow, right? Laha jirmun, karrawthi, like dung. Wal
Muftisam,
azrati,
you know,
ji, now.
laha, I've got Jarimun. Is it saying that it's a jism? It has a body.
It has body, yes, it has mass. It says it's not a liquid.
No,
It
yeah.
doesn't flow, right?
Gee. Okay, shukran.
Karrawthi,
Karothi, like dung, wal azira, anything impure, like filth.
right, right, correct. So like dung and other type of najasat, right?
No,
What dummy and blood. Now,
no.
normally, if you look at blood, normally it gets thick. I know if you saw when you slaughter the animal after a while, it forms like a
It clots.
almost like it has a body. It's like almost like a something like it, right? Fajafat. So first thing I told you, jirmun, mass.
No.
Second thing, fajafat, it gets dry.
No.
Fadalakahu bil ardi. So you scratch, you rub it, scratch it thoroughly, rigorously, or vigorously, bil ardi, on the earth. Jaza, it will be permissible. So I told you, always try to think how you can contemporize a masla, your shoe, for example. Sometimes maybe you need to read salah with your shoe. Maybe you traveling, or you got a big boots, you got for jihad training or something like that. You made wudu, etc. You don't want to take your shoe out. But that's a separate masala. We'll discuss it another time about reading salah with your shoes. But right. وَهَذَا إِسْتِحْسَانٌ. This is istihsan. What does istihsan mean?
Is
I
it
told
away
you,
from qiyas? Oh, sorry.
right, sure. Istihsan means something more deeper than logic. Qiyas means something which you just apply, you can say superficial logic, just look on the surface. And istihsan is something which is much more deeper than logic. So like we done this example several times, that if an animal who consumes haram and it drinks from water, then its left water is supposed to be najis. But that's now, so we'll say an eagle, a hawk, a falcon, if it drank from some water, the water is supposed to be najis. That is normal, superficial, surface level logic. But if you go one step deeper, you see these animals, they don't have saliva in their mouth. So when they drink from the water, they are not contaminating the water. So this is deeper than qiyas. So as Brother Qamruddin pointed out, your istihsan means you look beyond normal logic. You look beyond normal superficial analysis. So when they say this, what they mean here is that, look here, logically speaking, this is not supposed to become pure with mere rubbing. It's not
Yeah.
supposed to be, because when something is afflicted with najis, then it's supposed to be washed. But the
No.
fact that you are allowed to scratch it thoroughly clean, it is something which is deeper than normal logic. And this
No.
could come because of some extenuating circumstances, something deeper in logic, or sometimes it could be even that you have clear knuckle, you have text. I told you, which we always give preference to knuckle, and the unique thing about the Hanafi madhab is people always accuse the Hanafi madhab of following logic over text. They give the people accuse Na'udzubillah, Imam Abu Hanifa of giving more preference to his own logic or over the hadith. But there's ulama have written books where they've shown that in the Hanafi madhab, we'll give preference to even a weak hadith over logic. So here we've got a hadith also that bears us out on this, right? We will come in further on in the text. So that was the opinion. That was the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa. Like I told you, normally the default ruling is that fatwa is given Imam Abu Hanifa, madhab, especially in taharat and wudu, because he was most cautious, right? وقال محمد, Imam Muhammad says, لا يجوز. It is not permissible. Yes, even though all three conditions were found, that was it had mass, it dried, and you scratch it. It was still not good enough. Why? He says, وَهُوَ الْقِيَاسُ. And he said, this is logic. Logic demands. And he said, إِلَّا فِي الْمَنِي خَاصَّةً. He said, this concession of drying it is only with regard to the sperm of a male. And the
No.
reason why he's restricted, I told you yesterday, remember I told you,
Al
when you
hadith.
got something which is proven through naqal, through text,
No.
then if it's contrary to logic, you restrict it only to that instance. You don't. So he's saying, look at the hadith that speaks about rubbing off the najasat. It is only with regards to what? Sperm. If you go back
No.
to the beginning of our sabak here, وقال عليه السلام, when the Nabi Sallallahu said to Aisha Siddiqa, "Hutihi." Okay, no, so not that hadith, sorry, ma'am.
Huttihi
There's
wajah.
another hadith. Yeah, but okay, that one also says ثُمَّ اغْسِلِيهِ بِالْمَاءِ. Not this one. There's another hadith, probably in the Shara, if I can find it if you want to. But there is another hadith where the way Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala anha, that when the money, the sperm, male sperm, afflicts or it comes onto the clothes of of a human being or cloth, whatever, you just need to scratch it thoroughly, right?
Yeah.
So remember, so this is the logic of Imam Muhammad, that the sperm masla is proven contrary to logic. So it will be restricted on that. يختص على مورده. Will not extrapolate further on something which is khilaf qiyas. Are you with me? So
No.
khilaf qiyas means something which has been understood contrary to logic. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
Are you
Also,
following Lukman? Right.
yeah.
You should
Mufsar.
speak. You
Yeah.
speak.
Hello. Salam alaikum.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say, I was gonna say, you know where it says, illa fil mani khasatan. You know this type of mani is it? You know, current day. Somebody was saying that current day the mani for some people, depending on their diet, is very thin. So it's very much like water
Yes.
almost in some instances. So this will seep
Yes.
through, and
I,
it won't be jarim. Like
I,
it won't have the celestial
I,
body.
I agree with you 100%. In previous time, people were much more stronger
No.
because of the food they ate. They ate natural, wholesome food, and they did not live sedentary lives like us. Like we sit in the office, we sit in the madrasa. So bodily, we are weaker, and our diet is not so good. We eat all processed foods, and the main thing is also because of our lack of piety, we are bodily weaker.
Mm.
And because of our lack of piety, even our sperm is weaker. Even our shahwat is less. Our Mufti Saab, Mufti Ibrahim Salaji used to say our principle is still alive. He said, Shahwatul muttaqi ashad. Shahwatul muttaqi. That
Ashad.
the libido of a pious person is much more greater. Why? Because his eyes is shut off to haram. His ears is shut off to haram. His mouth is shut off to haram. So his body is preserving its energy in strength. Today we're looking at haram all the time. We're looking at the cell phone. We're listening to haram. We're speaking haram. We're chatting to opposite gender. All of that diminishes our strength. So because of three reasons, because of our diet, because of our sedentary lifestyle, and because of our lack of piety, we are much more weaker. That is why the sperm is like fluid. So as you correctly pointed out, so nowadays the sperm is like urine. It's so thin, it's so fluid because of those reasons. So maybe to a great extent, as you correctly pointed out, maybe this masla will not be applicable. Nowadays,
Mm.
Men is so weak, even if the sperm was on the cloth, you won't even see the sperm there. But in
Mm.
previous days, if the sperm came on the cloth, you will see a lump there. What will you see?
A lump,
Like
yeah.
dried blood
Jism.
and a lump.
No, no,
You see jism. So maybe you
no.
are correct. Maybe this must not applicable to us. We guys nowadays refer to the real rijal, the real men of the past, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, coming back to the sabak, they're saying, now that they're giving the reason why they're saying, I explained this before we look at in the kitab. They say, look, yeah, no, if you look at a cloth, a normal cloth is very porous, right? So when
No,
Najaasat goes in there, it goes right deep into the cloth. That is why it's necessary to wash it thoroughly. But if you look at like a leather thing, it is not so porous. It is much more tougher. So when the najasat that has mass soils it, then after a while it gets dry. So when it gets dry, it withdraws that najasat. As it gets dry, it shrinks, so to say. So that little najasat that afflicted the hoof or the leather shoe, it gets dry. So there is not a great deal of najasat that has penetrated deep into the affected area. So three things I tell you. Because it got mass, it will when it dries up, it will withdraw that najasat, and then hence a thorough rub, a thorough scrub is sufficient to get it clean. See, look in the kitab. So they're saying, لِأَنَّ الْمُتَدَاخِلَ, that which steeps in, dakhal enters, right? الْمُتَدَاخِلَ فِي الْخُفِّ, into the khuf, لا يزيله, right? لا يزيله الجفاف والدلق بخلاف المني. So here, this is the reasoning here of I just skipped the point, but anyway, this is the reasoning here of what we said. La Joseph. This is the point of Imam. This is the reasoning of Imam Muhammad. Imam Muhammad is saying that, remember what was his opinion, that this will only be applicable in money, not anything else. He's saying لأن المتداخلة, that which goes into the khuf, لا يزول الجفاف والدلك, just scrubbing it and rubbing it rigorously will not remove it. بخلاف المني, contrary to money, it will only happen in money. That means only in money that it will draw it out applies. على ما نذكره, according to what we will mention more of this at a later stage. So that was the reasoning of Imam Muhammad, that this whole thing about once it dries, it draws out the najasat, etc., etc. This only applies to money. That was so because that's why he said that this concession is only for money. Then we come back to um, Imam Hanifa and Imam Yusuf's proof. They say, وَلَهُمَا قَوْلُ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ, that this is a clear hadith of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. They say, إِنْ كَانَ بِهِمَا أَذَنْ, if there is on them two, right? Adding on the khuf, adhan,
isn't it filth?
right, yeah. It literally translates as harm or dirt, but in this context, it will mean filth, as you correctly point out, Jazakallah. And then I just want to draw your people's attention to this here. Remember, normally the alif maqsura, it is what is a hal alamat ta'nif. So it becomes
No,
ghair munstarif. But that is when it is besides the three root letters. So here you only got two root letters. You got alif and you got za. And the ya is part of the root letters. That's why it will not be alamat ta'nif. Hence it will
no,
be munstarif. That's why we say, فَإِنْ كَانَ بِهِمَا أَذًا.
no.
فهمت? You remember that masla? A lot of people وَأَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ عَنْهَا غَافِلُونَ. Sometimes they wonder how come sometimes you see alif maktura, it is munsarif, sometimes it's not munsarif. Why? I tell you the reason there. When the alif maktura is part of the what? Or alif lazima, it is part of the root letters, then it's
Yeah,
not alamat ta'nis, then it is munsarif. If
no,
it is over and above the three root letters, then it is sign of ta'nis, then you will read it just with a single fatha, right? Right. So if in kana bihima adhan, so there's a hadith which says that if there is on your hoofs any najasat, فَلْيَمْسَسْ فَلْيَمْسَسْهُمَا بِالْأَرْضِ, then just rub it thoroughly on the earth. فَإِنَّ الْأَرْضَ لَهُمَا طَهُورٌ, because very the earth is a means of purification. And
no.
so that is, we using the generality of this hadith against Imam Muhammad, that Nabi Sallallahu didn't say only if there is a sperm, whatever. He said if there's anything, any type of najasat, right? You understood that? So, like I
Yes.
tell you, as per the habit of Sahib Hidayah, he brings first a dalil naqli, that is a textual evidence, which is a hadith, in this case, a clear sarih hadith of Nabi Sallam, then he brings with it a dalil aqli, a logical proof, as Prophet Muhammad says, وَلِأَنَّ الْجِلْدَ لِصَلَابَتِهِ. So, because if you look at the leather, right, لِصَلَابَتِهِ, because of its firmness, right, لا
نعم.
يتداخل أجزاء النجاسة, that the particles of the najasat does not, in this case, yeah, I'll translate, does not go very deep in, right? إلا قليل, except a little bit. Then, like I told you, ثم يجتذبه الجرم إذا جف. So now when this najasat that has messed, it dries up, it's going to draw that thing out again, right? ثم يجتذب الجرم إذا جف. So فإذا زال, so when that draws it out, right? Zala maqama bihi. So when this najasat comes out, zala maqama bihi, that which was established through it in this najasat, that will also now, right, it will be nullified. The hukum of najasat will be nullified, because firstly, that body draws it out, and then it is rubbed thoroughly, right? So, so remember I told you before, I said three things: mass, dry, scratch. So now we're going to, the next Masla speaks about when one of the conditions are not found. It was the najasat that had mass, but it did not dry as yet. So maybe you tramped into wet dung of your horse or whatever, right? Now you couldn't wait for it to dry. Can you just scratch it? Will it suffice? Remember, until now we're discussing when it dries, right? وفي الرطب لا يجوز حتى يغسله. And if it was wet, najasat, it didn't dry it, لا يجوز, it will not be permissible to pray in it, right? حتى يغسله, until he does not wash it. Why? لأن المسح, because he's saying بالأرض يكثره ولا يطهره. If you've got wet dung, even though it got messed, when you rub it, instead of removing the najasat, it's going to spread it, it's going to increase it. Unlike when it becomes dry, it draws the particles out, and it's easy to move it. Now it's going to soil the whole area. It's going to
Mm.
increase it. You're going to make more trouble. لأن المسح بالأرض, by washing it on, or rather scratching on the ground, يكثره, it will increase it. ولا يطهره, and will not
Yeah.
purify it. Right? Now we're coming back to this. Now, remember Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Hanifa, Imam Hanifa and Imam Yusuf were together on the masla that any type of najasa that has mass, you just have to rub it, scrub it thoroughly. Imam Muhammad said no, only for sperm, right? And
Mm.
then we said here, according to the previous masla, that if it had mass and it did not dry as yet, you are still wet. Either you wait till it dry and then you scratch it off, or the other next thing is you have to wash it with water, right? So وأنا أبي يوسف أنه إذا مسحه بالأرض. So Imam Yusuf says now here, Imam Yusuf, he differs with Imam Abu Hanifa. He says, look, even if it is wet, right, right. This is it. أنه إذا مسحه بالأرض, but he rubs it on the earth. حتى لم يبقى أثر النجاسة, until no signs of, no, you can't see any signs. يطهر, it will be considered pure. لأموم البلوى, because of umum al-balwa means common, easy way to common affliction. Here I
Mm.
told you, I mentioned before, Hidayah Sharif is a book of usul. It's not a mere book of fiqh. They're saying when something is a common affliction, a lot of people are afflicted by it, and it makes life difficult, not for one person, but for many people. Then, like I tell you, there's a principle, إذا ضاق الأمر اتسع. When a
Mm.
matter becomes very difficult, then Sharit creates some type of leeway and expense. So they say,
Yeah.
look, in previous times, maybe not so applicable to us today. People lived on farms. They live in agrarian societies. They'll be riding a horse. They'll be riding a mule. The ladies maybe had to milk the cow. The ladies, well, nowadays they just go to the shop. They buy the milk. They have to go, make tea. They have to go milk the goat quickly, bring it. So their shoes would be soiled 2 times, 3 times, 4 times a day, etc.,
Mm.
etc. So that means umum balwa, something which happens often and afflicts many people. So here, Imam Abu Yusuf says, look, even if logically we say that when it's wet, it does not remove all the najasat, but because of common affliction, and there are many Masai like this. If you see here, now you are doing now, mashallah, what you're doing the masla, and under the masla, you're doing the usul. But when you do iftar, what they do is they'll give you the usul. They'll tell you like, إذا ضاق الأمر اتسع. Then they'll give you all the masala that come under that. Then they'll give you what is umume balwa. So there's a reverse order. They'll give you the usul, and they'll give you all the laws. And the book of this is called Al-Ashbah wa Nazair, and there are many other new books also today. So you do here, you're doing the masla, and under that, by the way, you do the usul. So in iftar, you do the usul, and then you do the masail after. So Imam Yusuf says that because this is a common affliction, and it happens often, and there will be difficulty. So he will say that if you, even though it did not dry, the najasat did not dry, but if it's rubbed, it is scratched thoroughly, then it, to such a sect that so he's relaxing the one condition, najasat that has mass, rubs, scratched thoroughly, but you don't have to dry, right? What it lacks. So one of the two reasons he give, one is the umum balwa, one is common affliction. Then what it laqi ma yurwa, and also because he said, look here, he said, go
Yeah.
back to the hadith of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He says here, ولهما قول عليه السلام فإن كان بهما أذى فليمسسهما بالأرض فإن الأرض لها طهور. He said, if there is any felt dirt, I told you adhan means harm, then rub it on the earth, because the earth is a means of purification. He said, look here, this hadith here of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam does not
Subhanallah.
speak anything about it getting dry. The
Mm.
hadith doesn't say that the najasat have to get dry. That is maybe an addition that the fuqaha have added. Now, look at me one second. There's another principle that you done in your usul al-shashi. Al-mutlaqu yajri ala itlaqihi. What does
Right.
it mean? When the text is general, when the text is unrestricted, then keep it unrestricted. Do not unnecessarily put any other conditions. So he's saying, Imam Yusuf is saying, look here, the text is general. The text is when you got some type of najasat which comes on your leather, hoofs, or your shoes, and it is
Hello? Mufsab is gone silent.
and because of the generality of what has been narrated. And then last part, وَعَلَيْهِ مَشَائِخُنَا, and upon that is our mashayikh. This is what you do when you do iftar, inshallah. You will discuss all this terminology. That means our mashayikh are upon it. That means our mashayikh have chosen this, that even though it does not get dry, but if it is thoroughly scratched, then it should come back. So nowadays, maybe the ladies have a handbag, they have a leather handbag, it got soiled, maybe the child messed up on it or something, whatever. You can, inshallah, find many current modern day scenarios for the application of this, inshallah. Yeah, so inshallah, we will continue tomorrow, inshallah. With if the
Inshallah.
najasa did not have mass, and then I told you the other one also about if your cell phone is asleep, if some najasat came onto the cell phone, you took your cell phone to the toilet and you were scrolling, and you messed your cell phone. And in worst case scenario, if your cell phone fell into the toilet, that we'll also discuss inshallah. Thus, subhanallah.